I don't want to forget to do that for people who couldn't make it. So here we go. Now we're recording.
And Michelle, do you want to make me the host?
You know what?
If anybody's late?
Nope, they can come in still. That we didn't lock it down.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, cool.
Thank you. So that way you didn't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Okay. Can you all see my screen now? It says WordPress open source.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So this is a post that I just wrote today. The first thing I ever do when I finish writing a post is try to see what kind of score I get with Yoast, and I have not yet done that, although it has been very difficult not to do that today, because I really wanted to see where we are. So usually what I do is I take part of the title, so WordPress open source, open community, and that's usually the keyword that I'm looking for because I want it to be found easily. So we're just going to use WordPress today, which is probably not enough, but we're still going to use that. And you can see automatically I have an SEO and a readability score. I have never actually had the SEO turn green right away. So I'm pretty amazed that my SEO analysis was, hey Amanda, unmute yourself, and I want to hear some kudos on how great a job I did just in writing.
You did amazing. I've never seen that much green stuff in one post.
I know, that's really awesome.
Actually hoping for more problems so that I can show you how I solve them.
That's pretty amazing.
Hey,
this is going to be a boring demo now.
So can you back up? Does everybody know what Yoast is?
No.
Okay, so Yoast is a plugin for search engine optimization.
Okay.
What it does is it helps you figure out if you've done enough within your article to be found well by Google. It doesn't guarantee you that you're going to be on the first page or at the top of any page. You could turn green up here next to Yoast, so it has a yellow. It goes everywhere from red to green and everything in between to kind of show you how well you've done. But having a green light just means you've done a good job based on what you've put in there. It doesn't mean that you're actually going to show up at the top of any page. But it's the way you kind of get started with it. So what I usually do is I come up with a word, and then you can see down here, you're going to turn some color. So if I change this, let's see, I change this to word camp. Now I've gotten yellow, and I've gone to orange because that key phrase doesn't show up in my introduction. It's not showing up anywhere. Luckily, that's not what I wanted it to be. I did want it to be WordPress. And so when you change things to the right word, hopefully when you write, the whole idea is that what you're writing about, you're using the right words for organic searches to find you. So if I only use the word WordPress in the title and nowhere else again into the entire article, I'm going to see red up here for this configuration. But because I use the word WordPress throughout, and I used it in H2 labels here, WordPress here, and I've used the word WordPress in more than one place for the length of the article I have, it's rewarding me by saying you've done a good job. So if we look at the actual analysis down here, my SEO title width is good. That means that it's not too short, not too long, which is what you saw at the very top, which is this WordPress open source, open community, because you want it to be more than just one word. The key phrase is in the slug. The slug is the permalink that you've created. So if I look over here, it says WordPress, open source, open community. The key phrase is in the title, so it is actually in the title too. The text length is over 300 words. SEO wants, to be found, Google wants you to have more than 300 words on the post. I've got 519 in here, so that's considered a good text length. The key phrase is in the subheading. So in my H2 tags, when I see these here, connection, how to find online WordPress, those are my subtitles, my H tags, and those also have the key phrase, which is WordPress. Previously used key phrase. I have not used the word WordPress as a key phrase in any of my other posts or pages, so I'm not confusing Google by trying to send it to two different pages on my site. The focus key phrase was found 14 times, so I actually used the word WordPress 14 times in this article. If this article was 300 words long, they would say, whoa, you've really overstuffed it. But because I've got over 500 words, that's not too many. So it's not too dense. They look at the density. Density can be too much or not enough. So if I only used it maybe 3 times, it would say, hey, for an article this length, 3 times isn't enough. So it's going to always base it on the number of times you've used the key phrase versus the entire length of your article. The key phrase length is good. That it was in the introduction was well done. I have internal links. So I have one internal link here, right here. It links through to the hosting plans page. If anybody's interested, once they've finished reading the post, then it says, hey, if you're interested in, for more information on Sentree Hosting, visit this link here, and that's an internal link. And then it always wants to see outbound links too. So links that take you off of your website to other text and other content. And I've done that here using like meetup.com, the Twitter link, the WordPress Slack community, WP and up, and then all the way at the top here, our WordCamp US I've got done, Zoom, Jitsi, and then this quote and the caption also have outbound links. So there's plenty of outbound links to make Yoast happy as well. And then it doesn't see any image alt attributes, or actually it sees the attributes, but they don't reflect the topic of my text. So what an image alt attribute does, if I click here, you'll see it over on the right-hand side. I don't have any alt text right now for this image. I did, and then I switched out the image earlier today, and I didn't put any alt text in. So what I could put here, what I should put here is what the actual image says. So the open source project isn't just about code. Now, if I put speaking about WordPress in there as an alt text, it should see this change now. Although it didn't. I don't always understand why. Maybe it didn't like that it wasn't earlier in the text. But the thing is, you don't have to have every single problem or improvement satisfied, because sometimes you're just not going to be able to. The meta description link, no meta description has been specified, and that's the snippet here. And there's
Michelle, before you go on to that,
yeah.
Can you go back to the image description?
Yep.
All right. What's the tilde thing that you put in front of your name?
Oh, that's just to attribute it to the speaker. So it's a quote by Michelle Frechette.
So is that a WordPress thing? Is that an English thing? What is that?
That's an English thing. Some people use a tilde, some people use a dash. And that's a way to just attribute the speaker. So I don't have any meta description yet. So I want to pull some meta description. So usually what I do is I find something in the text that's the crux of what the article is about. So this here is not too bad. So we'll take this phrase, and down here we'll put in the snippet. Let's see, and then we're going to edit it. So we'll say WordPress is open source. And now that in-person meetups are canceled and online meetups are taking over, it's more open than ever. So I can close the snippet editor. It's the right length. So if we go to, let's see, the meta description length, well done. So it turned green. You don't want it too short, you don't want it too long. So when you edit the snippet, that is your meta description down here. And yep, I had a space in the beginning. So you don't want it to be orange, you want it to be right in that green level. And what that does is usually this here is what Google is grabbing and putting in the description for the page. So if this post is going to show up in a Google search, it's going to pull this meta description and put that in the Google search. So if I were to go to Google and search for, let's see, go to Google, search with Google, okay? WordPress. So you see here, WordPress hosted from GoDaddy, automatic WordPress install. This is what's in that meta description that they wanted to put on that page. under WordPress.com, create a free website or build. This is their meta description right here. And when you have an ellipsis at the end, like this ends in a period, but this one here has the ... This one has a ... It's because they're too long. So they've got more text in their meta description than will actually fit on Google's snippet. And when you are in the green like this, it's because that's the right amount of text to show up in that snippet without running over. So close the snippet editor. Everything on here is turned green. So for the word WordPress or the keyword WordPress, they're happy with everything. They don't, they say that there are images on the page that don't have, oh, I know what it is. It's this one right here. Right here. Sentree offers, this is a Sentree offer for COVID affected businesses. I could put Sentree specializes in WordPress sites. And let's see if that did it. It did. So now I've got all of my image alt attributes all say WordPress as well. So now every single thing has turned green on here. So, and you'll see it's green at the top here too. So that means that if I do everything like I should, then I have a better opportunity for being found for the word WordPress. Now we know that WordPress is a very highly sought after ad word, so the likelihood of this actually showing up on that first page with the word WordPress is pretty darn slim, but that's okay. We're still just kind of looking at how to use Yoast itself and not necessarily on all that keyword research. Now the other things you can do is you can have this readability here.
Before we move on real quick.
Yeah.
So all of your bullets were green, but in the very beginning we said, oh, sometimes that's not as likely, or like really amazing job, because that's really hard to do. So what's like a good average score? Half?
Yeah, so it's not even necessarily that you're looking for an average score of half. You really want to make sure that you're hitting certain ones before others. So if I didn't have enough outbound links, I wouldn't care. So if I was building a website, let's say I'm doing Just Go Chiropractic, and I have an about page about the services that Just Go offers, I don't need any outbound links on that page. I'm not going to try to link to another chiropractor. I'm not necessarily going to link to a Wikipedia article about, Nuka Chiropractic or any of those kinds of different things. I want to keep people on my website for that page. I don't want them to go elsewhere. So that's always going to say you don't have any outbound links, and it's going to give you red or orange for that. You're like, you don't care. So you don't necessarily have to hit green on everything. Internal links, you might not have an internal link on that page either, but if you want to, you might consider putting a link at the bottom to contact, to schedule, or something like that. So then it would show an internal link.
All right, so it's really just like for each of these, apply some general judgment on if they should apply and how you can improve them.
Yes, absolutely.
So you could think of that, each one of these is like a little score.
Yeah.
Right? So if you leave a couple off, you may still have a really great score because those only count 1 or 2 points, but you want a bunch of them. You don't want to leave it half red, probably. Hey, Michelle, could you, just for kicks, could you change your keyword to community?
Change it to community and watch everything go
just
go
for
red?
a second, and it'll, yeah, so now you can see that's probably closer to what you'll see.
Except that you're hoping to get the key phrase of the original. I mean, some of these really red ones, you're going to want to make some changes about.
Yep.
Okay. So it's just like a line by line assessment. Like, where can I make some tweaks? Okay.
It's a guide. It really is a guide, and you have to decide based on there if each one of those things is that important to you or not, based on what they are. So some are definitely more important than others, right?
Michelle? I think this is right. I'm not positive. You don't have to have all green at the bottom to get a score of green at the top. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because
I don't know what that number is. Like you were saying, it depends. But
right. Like I had a red and an orange, or an orange and a yellow when we first started, and it was still green at the top.
Yep.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be all green. One of the things that's an interesting score too is this readability score. So there's passive voice. So sometimes I'm not using active voice, I'm using passive voice. They don't like that. The Flesh reading ease score. So this tells me that it's considered fairly difficult to read. Well, if I was writing a general post that wasn't to a technical community, I'd be more concerned about that. But considering I'm writing for the technical community about technical things, I'm not as concerned about my readability either.
I was about to say, sometimes I find that really difficult to like get down.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering what the reason for that was.
So the whole idea behind especially the Flesh reading ease is that you're supposed to, in general writing, not to a particular audience, write at like a seventh to 9th grade level, so that you're not writing to people with college degrees or with specific knowledge. So if I was just writing a general blog about my life, I would want to see that score come up a lot higher. As soon as you start writing to a technical audience or to specific audience that you're using words that are terminologies that are very specific to an industry, that score drops drastically. So if you're writing about chiropractic and you're talking about different forms of chiropractic and different techniques that the doctor could use, you're going to see that score drop really fast, because those are specific terminologies that aren't general terms that people necessarily know and are expecting to see. And the same is true when you talk about technical writing. Now, the other thing that I think Yoast is really, really good about is they have this social tab here. And what this does is it's really good for social sharing. So if I look here for the Facebook, I don't have a Facebook title, description, or image yet. So I'm going to take the title from here. I'm going to use the same title. I have no problem with using the same title for that. Scroll back down. And I'm going to put that right here. And I'm going to use the same one for Twitter, because why not? Now, the other thing I could do for the description is I could take the meta description here, that snippet editor. I can go back over to my social, and for Facebook and Twitter, I can use the same description. And what this does is it's creating that image that shows up when you share a link to either Twitter or Facebook. Have you ever shared a link to Facebook and it doesn't show a nice pretty picture? It shows like either a small picture to the left and some text to the right, or where there should be a picture, it's kind of gray and text to the right. It's not as enticing for people to want to click on. So the whole idea is that you tell Facebook and you tell Twitter what to put there instead of them trying to guess. So basically Twitter and Facebook are going to guess what you should put there instead of having something there that you want to put instead. For the, there's no alt text here. I should have just copied it. So for Facebook, it'll tell you specifically when you want to upload an image here for, let's see, Facebook, that it should be 1200 by 630 pixels. So what I did, and I knew that, so when I created this image up here, guess what size this image is? 1200 by 630 pixels, because I want to make sure it's the right size to upload. So I upload that image here. And for Twitter, even though it's a little bit different, I promise you it'll still load just as well. So I'm going to go ahead and upload those images, same image, just load it into the Twitter and Facebook card here. Make sure that I've got the same the Twitter title, the Facebook title, and then also the description in both of those. Now that I have my social set up, I have the website post ready to go. And I did actually have this proofread this afternoon by Graham. So he's already had his eyes on it to make sure that there weren't any typos and things like that. I can do two things. First, I can preview it. So this is going to show me. And since I'm sharing my computer screen, or sharing my screen with you all on a call, it's going to take just a little bit longer to preview. And I can make sure that it looks like I want it to look. So there's that image. Everything else is looking normal. This underlining here is how we have the site set up for sharing links, the connection, and then more information. So everything is here that I want to be here. So now I can go back and I can publish. Whoops, no.
Michelle,
Yes.
it's Diana. this is, you're talking about premium, not the free version, right?
Nope, this is the free version. I haven't paid for anything.
Oh, okay. I just saw things that I have never seen
Uh-huh.
in Yoast before, so I thought it must be premium. Okay, thanks.
Sure. So I have now published it. I can go to the post. This is what was in the preview before, but now you see up here in the URL that it's got the actual URL in here instead of the preview link that it had before. So my WordPress open source open community is there. You can see that it's part of the blog subdirectory. And let me show you what happens if I go to Facebook. I think I have Facebook on here. Let's see, right here. Am I logged in is the question. I am. If I post this on Facebook now, it should try to fetch a preview. Let's see what it does. It's fetched a preview. Oh, look at that. It actually did what it should do without actually having to go through the next step, which is what I usually do. And let me show you that. You can still see my screen? Now you're seeing my Twitter screen? Okay. I wanted to make sure I was sharing the whole thing. There's a Facebook for developer sharing debugger and a Twitter card validator.
I love these tools.
What's that?
I love these tools. I'm so glad you're showing these tools.
Aren't they awesome?
They are, yeah.
I'm going to click the debug, and because I've already tried to post this to Facebook once, it's already been scraped. And what it does is it shows you here what it's going to look like when it hits Facebook. If it hadn't already tried to post it to Facebook, I would get a warning that says, this has never been posted, please fetch new information. And I would have to click that. But since we already tried to post it once, it's going to show me this is the picture that's going to come up. This is the title that I set up, and this is the text that I had created. Now you do see the ellipsis here, and that's because this isn't what's showing in Google. This is what Facebook will allow, the number of characters that you can show on Facebook. And that's how that's what it would look like when we post it to Facebook, which is exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow morning because I've published a new article. The other thing you can do is Twitter has a similar card validator. So I can put the image there and I can click preview card. And there it is, hopefully soon.
Can I interject something?
Uh-huh.
I was going to say, if you upload your featured image at 795 by 500, that size, it will look good on both Facebook and Twitter.
Oh, that's awesome. So I'm having problems getting it to show up right in Twitter. So it's not bringing the image through. What this tells me is that there's likely a caching issue that Twitter's not picking up. So before I actually post this to Twitter tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead with the and flush the cache. Graham, are you?
I was about to say, I was like, maybe I'll go and try like logging in and see if it's a caching issue.
It's more likely a caching issue because we're using, was it WP Rocket that we're using for that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so usually this shows up beautifully, but it's probably a caching issue. Are you flushing the cache for me now?
I will let you know when it's done.
Okay, thanks. Usually flushing the cache will correct that so that then it will actually pull up that image. Depends on, the more security you have on a site, the more you have to go through to get things to show up like you want them to in certain ways. And that's just because when things are fetching out of your website, you want those security layers in there. And because Sentree is a hosting company, they know what they're doing with security, and they put up a ton of walls that make my job difficult, but make theirs easier. And Graham is muted, so he can't yell back at me right now.
I'm just checking that we just like making your life interesting, Michelle.
There you go, right? So if I posted this to Twitter right now, I most likely wouldn't get the right image at the top. It would show just like what you're seeing here. It also could be, if it's not a caching issue, it could just be that my computer, because of my bandwidth right now, is not pulling everything in either. And I have to, what's that?
Give it a shot now. See if it's pulling through now.
Nope, not yet.
No, it doesn't like that. Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah. By tomorrow morning,
Post you could show us?
What's that?
Is there another post you could show us that would have an image there?
Yeah, let me try. Hold on. Let me pull something off of that. One of our other blogs. Let's see. Let's find the one.
Please don't make it my one. Please don't make it my
I was looking for.
one. No. Just knew you were gonna do that.
I had to. Okay, so I'm gonna put in a different link here now, and let's see what happens. No, it's not pulling that either, Graham. So we have some issues we have to look at later.
Maybe it's Twitter.
It could be. I was having problems with Twitter earlier today, not showing.
Oh, here, Michelle, it's working with me. Like I've just gone into the validator, and it is showing the correct image for
So it
the
must be me
original
then.
blog post.
Yeah. So if you were to go to, if you know, maybe where you all are, if you pull up the Twitter card validator, you'll see that it's showing properly for you. I may be having bandwidth issues right now for sharing my screen and showing, you know, and with all of you and all of that. And I know that Zoom and the internet in general are overtaxed right now because of the whole COVID situation. So I'm glad it's showing properly for other people. That's a good thing. And so now,
Sorry, I just have one quick question. Not to be really lame, but can you go back and show me what that Facebook for Developer tool was?
Absolutely. Are you in our Facebook group, Kirsten?
I will be after today.
Okay,
It's
cool.
super helpful.
Yeah, sure. I'll post both of these links in our WordPress, in the meetup notes underneath the WordPress meetup, and in excuse me, I have the hiccups, and on our WordPress group. But it's developers.facebook.com/tools/debug, and I'm actually going to put it. I can't get the. I don't think I can get to the. I can't think of words right now. The chat. Somebody who has these links, Marianne, do you have these links already? Can you share them in the chat?
I got it.
Okay, you got it?
You got them?
Okay, and then the Twitter one is cards-dev.twitter.com/validator. And again, I'll post these both in our meetup group, in meetup.com, and on our Facebook group as well. And I can tweet them out too. So if you're following me, it's at Michelle Ames, because I can't change my divorce name on Twitter back to my maiden name. So anyway, at Michelle Ames, I will be happy to share these out on Twitter as well. And so that's the short, happy version of how to use Yoast. Now, did I do it perfectly? Probably not. I didn't do any keyword research. I just, you know, SEO'd it for what I wanted to look at to be able to give you a demonstration. I didn't put a ton of images. I never do when I'm using, when I'm posting for Sentree. I usually have one main image at the top, unless I need to do screen grabs for an instructional post. And I always, with this blog, I always end with either the logo or the Sentree Cares here, because we have a special running right now for people affected by COVID. And then I also put a link down at the bottom for information back to the hosting page. And that's how I sign off every single blog post. And we just started this blog, what, about a month ago? Month and a half ago?
Yeah, that's about right, yeah.
Yeah, so we just started, I started working with them. I'm like, where's your blog? And Graham's like, well, that's on the plan. We haven't really started it. I'm like, well, we're going to have one in about a month because we have to have a blog on this site. So
in all fairness, our marketing plan did have a blog in it. I mean, the marketing plan wasn't huge, but the blog was in there.
It hasn't been started yet. And I said, how can I continue to post things to social media if I don't have something to share?
And I was going to say, having a blog also really shows, like, you know, your expertise in your field. It gives back to the community. There's so much good that you can do by just by having even a monthly blog post. It can help your, you know, build your content, and give you authority with Google authority, all those kinds of things. So those are all good for your business.
Absolutely. Not only that, with the Google authority, but it's also just good for people to want to visit your site over and again. It's fresh content, and fresh content is always rewarded. and it's always welcomed by people. So, Amanda, are you still with us? I think she had to log off. She has a brand new baby, so I think she was not able to do that. Oh, thanks, Lee, for sharing those links too. Other questions about using Yoast?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Graham first.
You know where it's showing like the readability score? Are
Yes.
there any settings in Yoast where you can like modify that? Because if like you've got a blog that's kind of more technical or something, it's not something you necessarily want to be seeing all the time, is it?
Right. I just ignore it for the
Oh,
most
okay.
part. There may be in the premium version. You may be able to
Okay.
settings,
Yeah.
but in the free version that we're using, there aren't settings that will allow you to make changes there.
Okay, cool.
And I've never actually used the premium version. So if you can convince Carl to invest in the premium version, I'll learn it for you.
I'll ask. I just know in the little that I've used Yoast,
Yeah.
I can see that, and I'm just like, it frustrates me so much. It's like, but how do I write it better? So that's actually, I've learned something that's really useful.
I see we have a call-in person too. Is that you, Carl? It may be.
Yeah, there you go. I'm muted. There you go. I'm here. I'm listening.
You heard me say we should convince you to purchase Yoast.
No, I heard it. I'm like, I'm taking notes. I'm like, Michelle, if you need it, you can have it. So not a problem.
We'll talk tomorrow. But I am blushing because I didn't realize
Exactly. I didn't mean to sneak in. I was just listening, learning.
That's awesome. Well, we have another blog post published, Carl. You should be happy.
I am always.
Good.
And Michelle, I was wondering if you used rank math at all or looked into it as an alternative.
I actually just learned about rank math today.
Okay.
I was recording a podcast episode with Clifton Kennedy, and he said he used it. He mentioned that as one of his top three plugins that he recommends. And I said,
okay.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, I see you have Elementor, and it works well with Elementor. I understand. I haven't played with it too much, but
Yeah, I
I heard
heard
good
that
things
too.
about it.
Yeah.
I've been playing around with SEO Press too. That's another one.
There's a couple things that you get out of rank math and Yoast Premium that you don't get out of the basic version.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the main thing on the Yoast Premium version that I see is the ability to target more than one keyword. In other words, if you put in there community, it'll also help you analyze for related keywords to community, like synonyms and related terms.
Mm-hmm.
So quite often, if you write, when you start writing more posts, it's like, oh man, what am I going to put in here as a keyword?
Right.
I already used WordPress. I already used community. I already used,
Right. Yeah,
it's like, God, what do I put in here? So that really helps you quite a bit. The other thing that it does is, and that rank math, I understand, does really well, is put in the XML markup for your pages.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you get in Yoast Premium. So that's something you don't see on the page. But let's say you have a product that you're talking about. It will put in these invisible tags, like meta tags,
Mm-hmm.
or your product saying, this is the product name, this is what it is, this is the title, here's how much it is, blah, blah, blah. And when Google indexes the page, they can see that, and that helps them, one, figure out what the page is about, and two, it helps them do those special features on the search results, like where you see a special knowledge panel or a product. If you want your product to show up right on Google's search results, that's probably the fastest way to do it. And there's all sorts of schemas for these things, and the schemas just cover different types of content. The big one now is frequently asked questions schema, I think. That's a really, really good one to have, because if you can answer questions with nice short answers and put that schema thing in there, then I know if you've probably seen these when you do a search, up pop all these things on Google, all those little drop downs now that drive me crazy, but it's like, oh yeah, I wonder about that question. That's where those come from.
Yeah, but I call those the rabbit hole because I start to click
Yeah.
through there and then I'm gone for an hour.
So Lee, that's all in Rank Math or both Yoast and Rank Math?
That's in Yoast Premium.
Okay.
And from my understanding, I haven't played with it yet. It's on my list of things to do. Rank Math is supposed to be very good at that.
Okay.
And I know the guys who run Rank Math on the Traffic Think Tank. They're on there. So as are a lot of these other people.
I
Great
see
group. It's so
Diana's
much
had
fun.
Diana's had her hand up for a while. Diana, you have a question?
Sorry, no, I put it up before and I forgot to take it down again.
Okay.
Can you spell that rank math thing?
Rank, R-A-N-K, math, M-A-T-H.
Thanks. I couldn't tell if you were saying math or map.
Yep, no problem.
I see you use Elementor. Does Yoast work well with the Elementor and pick up everything from the boxes?
Yeah, it does. First of all, I'm not using Elementor in the blog post. I'm just using the Gutenberg block
Okay.
editor for posts, but it
Gotcha.
does. But
Okay.
it still does. So I've used, so when I, not to put you down, Graham and Carl, but when I started working with this website, none of the pages had any SEO done on them. So I've been working through the rest of the site slowly to put featured images and get some SEO keywords and things identified on those pages, and it does work with Elementor, works with Divi, it works with Beaver Builder. They've definitely engineered it in such a way that their updates have taken all of those kinds of things into their accommodations. So, any other questions about Yoast, about SEO? We usually spend the first half of our evening talking about the topic, and then we move on to just general questions that people have or discussion. I don't want to cut it short if there's other questions, and certainly we can continue to ask questions in between other things. But I also want to honor the fact that people probably have other questions about other things they want to talk about as well.
I have an SEO type question. So
Sure.
when you guys are talking keywords, I heard you say before that you can do research on keywords. So as I'm learning this, am I establishing what the keywords are, or what other tools do I need to use to figure out what are the pre-existing keywords that I should be using?
I'm going to ask Lee if he wants to jump in here, because this is more his bailiwick than it is mine, I think.
So there are lots of keyword tools out there. Some of them are free, some of them are paid for. If you're doing a lot of this stuff, it may be a good idea to get a subscription to one of the more they do range in price. The most popular ones are Ahrefs and SEMrush, SEMrush, depending upon, we have a holy war if it's SEMrush or SEMrush. Anyhow, depends on which side of the Atlantic you're on.
Is it a GIF or is it a GIF? I don't know.
Yeah. So those are the ones that you would use if you were doing this quite a bit. If you're not doing this quite a bit, you can really do some of your own keyword research fairly easily. One of the first things I would do is go to something fun like Answer the Public. Okay. So you go there and there's this dude who looks, now I kind of look like him. He sits there, he has a big beard, he used to anyhow, I think they changed it a little bit, but he's like waiting for you to ask a question, and you type in a phrase and it comes up with a list of all the questions around that term. So those are the things that you want to answer in your post, and you want to kind of look at all the questions around that term.
Sorry, what was the name of that?
Sorry, it's called Answer the Public. We'll probably put it up on share or something. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a party game. So it's not necessarily looked at as a heavyweight tool, but it's a good place to start and get you thinking about answering people's questions in your post. The other thing is, trying to think of, there's a good one, old Neil Patel put out.
Yes, I was just going to say Neil Patel, sorry.
Yeah, what's his thing now? It's something sumo.
Uber Suggest.
Uber Suggest. Oh, okay, yeah, Uber Suggest. And that's, that one's okay. I've used it a little bit. It does some of the stuff that SEMrush and Ahrefs does. So basically, you're putting in a keyword, and you're seeing how related keywords to that. So when they go out and look at all the phrases and what words are associated with that. So if you're looking up a particular phrase like cats, I don't know, you might, you're going to write a post about cats. Well, you're probably not just going to write about cats because you'll be competing with Wikipedia, right? Then you'll never get anything. So you might put in cats, see the topics that are there. You'll get some indication of how hard it is to rank against them for certain keywords. So usually what you want to do are find keywords that have low competition and high volume. So like cat scratching posts, what are the best cat scratching posts? Something like that, right? So that's kind of what keywords help you do. And these keyword ranking tools help you do is see how, because you don't want to know, I got this great keyword, but nobody's searching for it, right? So that's a problem. Or I'm going to pick dogs, right? Which means if you write a post about dogs, you'll never be seen because there's 1,000 million posts about dogs with more authority than yours. So this helps you narrow down into different areas. A really quick way to do it also is just go into Google, type your term, and then look at the related searches at the bottom. That's a really fast way to do it. And just collect a bunch of those, collect those terms, put them all together, and see which ones you can kind of pull into your post or which topics you want to add in your post, kind of as subheadings. Because those are popular, right? They're related to, because Google says, hey, these are related. So if you put those topics in your post, you're more likely to rank well.
The other thing is if you're a business that's a local business, you can also pair that with your locale. So like the Sentree is hosting for anybody in the whole world, but you can't perform chiropractic in every country in the world. You're looking really for the Rochester area, or even more specifically to your specific town. So you can start to key it, zone in on your keywords in certain arenas, right?
Absolutely, and there's search tools for that as well. There's local SEO works on a different algorithm than global SEO. And as Michelle mentioned, it looks for those signals that you're in the community. It looks for location names. It looks for mostly location names, your address, things like that, anything that's related to that. And so you have a much better chance of ranking well in searches at a local level.
Like Terry designed a website for a dog shelter. If she was trying to rank for dog shelter, period, that would be a hard one to rank for. But dog shelters in Rochester would be easier for her to find a way to key in on that. The other search tools that you didn't mention that I've heard and used before are Moz.com, the free SEO tools by Moz. And then also Google AdWords has a free keyword planner that you can use as well. You do need to sign up, I think, for the AdWords account, but the AdWords account is free. It's only costs money if you decide to purchase.
Yeah, it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still a good free tool to use.
Yeah, so I think I typed 6 of them into the chat there. So including the ones that use Redley, so they're all there.
Quick plea for internationalism. People in America tend to think that their town is the only one. Rochester, New York, Rochester, Minnesota, Rochester, England.
Yeah.
If you just use Rochester, you will get all 3.
Well, yes and no. If you search on your phone, Google knows where you are. And also Google knows where you are based on your IP address. So it's going to take that as a signal. And depending upon your intent, if you type in pizza, if you type in best pizza on your desktop, you'll get different results than best pizza on your phone. Because Google thinks, hey, this person wants pizza. They're not fooling around. They're on their phone. They're looking for pizza. Yeah. So they are going to pull up local results for that, as opposed to, hey, here's what pizza is.
We got some really great pizza in Italy. Do you want that?
Yeah, right. No.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Terry put her hand up. Terry, what's up?
Well, you're right.
So Google creeped me out the other day because I called my daughter. I had to go to the post office. I had to. So I went to the post office. I called her, told her her package was on the way. And I said, I drove by Abbott's and I'm like, Abbott's is closed. And she's in New Jersey. So I get home, she finds a post somewhere that says Abbott's is delivering. I'm like, how did they know? How did Google know that we were just talking about them? Because it came up on her Facebook or something, or maybe it was Facebook that overheard. I don't know. It's kind of creeping me out lately.
It can definitely be a creepy thing for sure.
Yeah.
That happened with me and my friend. He was talking about doing personal training and doing I was thinking, I should use WordPress. It's good for like building a first site and all the rest of it, and I can help you out. And I'd said WordPress a few times, and then the next day he started seeing ads on Facebook for WordPress, and I was just like, okay, that's weird, that's creepy, because we only talked about it. He never searched for it. So yeah, they're always listening.
Big Brother's there somewhere for sure. Yep, exactly. So we don't have to stick to this topic. We can talk about other topics if you have other questions, WordPress related. And I'm always looking for blog post ideas. So if you have blog post ideas, things you'd like to see me write up on how-tos or anything like that, always send those to me because we'll put those up on Sentree as well.
I was thinking about just all the all the community building that's happening now that we're all quarantined, like use of tools like Nextdoor and Zoom and that kind of thing. That might be a good, I'm sure but it might be something good for Sentree if they're hosting those kinds of things or any kind of community building, that kind of thing. It's really popular right now.
That's a great idea. Thank you. I'm gonna definitely jot that one down for me, Graham.
So what's next door?
Nextdoor is like Facebook for neighborhoods. If you go to nextdoor.com and put in your address, it'll come up with the community that you can join. But it's all like it's basically like online neighborhood watch almost, kind of thing. It can get a little
snarky.
I just yelled at my neighbors today for not picking up after their dogs.
Hey, that was you.
It can be a little shamey. There might be a little shaming going on there lately, but anyway, but it's a good thing. Like if there is something going on and it's important, people will post it there, and it's kind of an alternative to a Facebook group or something. And it's all, and they do have neighborhood. They call them leads, because somehow I ended up one of my neighborhood leads because I was one of the first to sign up in my neighborhood. So I get all the, should we take this down kind of, people will report stuff that people post on there, but generally I haven't had any bad experiences. And it's really nice because the other lead in my neighborhood is our town supervisor. So he does all of it. He's awesome.
In my neighborhood group, we get a lot of, does anybody know a good mason or a good roofer or a good plumber or whatever?
That's it too. That's really good.
Looking for recommendations, yeah.
And they do, that is really good for that.
So that's a good tool for sure, yeah.
Just nextdoor.com?
Yeah, and it's an app. You can download the app too.
Mm-hmm. That's a great blog post idea. Thank you.
If you want to laugh, you get on Twitter and find Best of Nextdoor, and you will laugh for hours.
I'm gonna have to look for that. It's a hashtag.
I'll have to look for that too.
Their Instagram is better because the Instagram is more readable. So if you search for Best of Nextdoor on Instagram, it's actually easier to like scroll through, and I think it's presented better. But the Twitter account, it's on the Twitter account. So.
That's awesome.
But oh my gosh, we were dying last night looking at it. It was just so funny.
There's definitely an opportunity there, and if you have local businesses, it's a really good idea to get posted in there and participate. On the other hand, it's like that saying that good fences make good neighbors.
Yeah.
There's no fences on there.
No.
Yeah.
Much
But
lower
I'm
otherwise.
saying like,
No, you're just going to be exposed to those
proceed
neighbors
with,
whether you like it or not.
yeah, proceed with a little bit of caution.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, last week there was actually gunfire outside of my house, my apartment here in Hilton. I don't know if you all saw that on the news, but
What?
yeah, I was on my couch. It was just about midnight, and I heard 5 gunshots, and I was like, those were real gunshots, and that wasn't a shotgun. Those were pistol gunshots, and I was afraid to move. I was like, what if they start they just stray bullets come through my window? But I looked on Facebook groups and next door and nothing there yet. So the first thing I did was download the police scanner app on my phone and listen to the police talk through it until they caught everybody. And then I went to bed.
Wow.
Yep. Always interesting. Never a dull moment for sure.
Anyone have neighborhoods howling at 8 o'clock at night?
If they have what?
At 8 o'clock every night, certain neighborhoods come out and howl.
No, not yet.
Some kind of COVID type thing, but in Italy they're singing to each other. I guess here we howl at each other. I don't know.
Oh, we do this. Yeah, we do this thing once a week where we've been clapping for the health service.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah. In New York City, they do it at 7 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think
Yeah.
our county manager suggested it at 7 o'clock, but I think we're a little more spread out, and I don't know how the healthcare workers would hear that in our areas. I mean, unless you live near the hospital. I don't know.
Yeah.
We had a drive-by birthday from our neighbor the other night. Or yesterday morning. It was so sweet. My daughter's best friend, and she couldn't spend her birthday with her, so it was so sweet. We all did a little parade in front of her house.
That is very nice. I started a new website about 2 weeks ago with Nathan Wrigley from WP Up and WP Builds, and he tapped me to co-host a website with him called goodnews.show. And so we're only posting good news. So nothing negative, only ever, happy things. So if you just need a dose of happiness, go to goodnews.show. You can sign up for our weekly delivery as well. And
that's awesome.
You could even submit articles and ideas.
Did you see the John Krasinski
Yeah,
one?
I was just going to say that. It was funny.
Did you see that he's
that was cute.
It was so great.
With John Krasinski, that one?
Yeah, with John Krasinski.
Yeah.
I saw there was a new episode today too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look at. I saw only half of one on my lunch hour today. I have to go back and look. It was funny. Good stuff. Very good stuff. WordPress updated to 5.4. Did everybody get their WordPress updates notifications? Has anybody had any trouble updating to the latest version of WordPress?
I haven't had any trouble, but I started going through the release notes today, and I wanted to find out because I've noticed that I think it turns off the classic editor. So just be careful when you're updating. If you have the classic editor enabled, if it turns it off, you may have to do some. I don't know if you have to get a plugin or something if you're tied to the classic editor. Just to, if you have someplace to test it out before you update, because it's a pretty big. There's a lot of additions in there. But I'm thinking I might want to write something about it too, because I noticed some big updates that I was like, oh, this has changed, kind of thing that I wasn't expecting. So
I've been working on my website, which is still under classic, and I've done the update, and I haven't noticed that it changed anything.
Oh, good.
Doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
Good.
It just means I didn't notice it.
Okay. Well, and it might just be certain themes too, or something, that kind of thing. So just, but I was going to play around with it, and I have gotten way more into reading release notes because it really helps me to understand what changes are happening. So, and WordPress does what do they call it? The field guide for each update, which is really good.
Yes.
Which is on WordPress.org for each release.
So what's interesting is I can't remember if it's the next release or the release after that. They're building the new release squad, and it's going to be all women. So they're actually building a release squad that's all women, and I'm going to be part of it. So that's kind of cool.
Cool.
And that is good. And that is good. Why?
Why? Because we've never had something like that. We've had them be all men before, but we've never had one that's all women. So it's just going to be an opportunity for, just to do something a little bit different. And Josepha Hayden, who is kind of the right-hand person at WordPress.org and .com, the whole automatic, is going to be pulling together that group. I was talking to Francesca Morano earlier this week. She was reminding me to get all my information in. And it should just be something that's kind of cool. So keep an eye out for that.
And then you get your name on the contributors list, right?
Yes. So
that's awesome.
You should put your name in there too, Marianne.
Okay. Yeah, send me the link. Is there a link for it, or is it just on WordPress.org? Or
it's neither. It's actually in the WordPress Slack channel, and I can hook you up.
Oh, okay.
Are you? If you're
I'm in there.
Okay,
I
good.
just haven't looked at it.
I'll join you up with Francesca, and she can send you the questions.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. If anybody else is interested, let me know. I'm trying to think what else has been coming out in WordPress. If anybody has questions about anything in particular or other topics.
A question about this, our Slack group. How do we get added to that?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah, what a great, awesome.
WPRochester.com has been having a little bit of issues lately, and actually Carl and Graham are going to be transporting that over to my new hosting at Sentree.io, so that's going to get much better very quickly.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link up for you for
Thank
the
you.
Heroku app. Yep, here you go, Michelle.
Yep.
I'm going to put it right in there. You
Awesome.
click on that, it'll come in, and you can get an invite for it.
Yep, so you can go ahead and click right through there, Michelle.
Thank you.
And that'll take you right to it. Yep. No problem. And I saw Sarah put a link in there a little bit earlier too, that the WordCamp Rochester 2020 call for speakers is open. I haven't submitted yet and I need to. But if you're interested in speaking at WordCamp Rochester, October
3rd.
I was going to say 5th, but I think that was last year. October 3rd. And it's planned right now for St. John Fisher College, right?
Yes. It is. We don't have a final, we don't know whether it's going to be online or in person yet, but we're going forward with planning it. And we'll just make a decision later in the summer, I think.
Yeah, so same thing with WordCamp Buffalo and WordCamp US is that they're kind of dual planning right now for whether or not and making the decision when they have to as to whether it'll be an online event or an in-person event based on what's happening in the world with the pandemic. So, but yeah, go ahead and apply to speak to be a WordCamp Rochester speaker because it's always fun to have as many local speakers as we can.
Michelle?
Yes.
Sorry, did you say, when you were talking about WordPress 5.4, did you say that Classic Editor is going away?
Marianne said that was.
Oh, Marianne said.
It's not going away. I just noticed on one of my sites, it
deactivated.
It deactivated by
Beaker.
He's funny. It deactivated Classic Editor on one of my sites, and I still haven't figured out why. So
okay, what if you have the plugin? On one of the sites I work on, she has the plugin, the Classic Editor plugin, because.
Oh, okay. Then that will override it. Then it should be
okay.
fine. But if you have a test site for that, I would update it on the test site first before, just to see what the changes are, because there's some pretty big significant changes on it. And depending on what theme you have, just do a spot check, make sure
this is an old theme. This is like one of the first WordPress sites I built after I graduated from RIT, and I wasn't using Divi yet, and I can't get her to convert to Divi.
Can you?
I tried. Okay. I tried.
Well, what's the theme? Like, how old is the theme? Like, is the theme responsive?
Yes, it's responsive.
It is.
It's called Puzzle, and it's never had an update.
So can you clone it locally and apply the changes to WordPress locally before? And
yeah, that's what I would do.
I can try, yeah.
Yeah. or just spin up a WordPress site and put puzzle on it and see how it, see how it reacts.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not.
You try to update it in staging first.
Yeah,
I even staged
put
it.
WP rollback on it. Make sure you put that plugin on there first.
Yep.
It kind of reminds me of the first theme that I used. It like had a weird name. Has anybody ever heard of the Bones theme?
No.
There was one called Bones, and that was like sort of, I think it was meant for like developers, just kind of like as a sort of something to build from. That's when I first saw SaaS being used. But yeah, Bones, that was the first starter theme that I had.
That's funny. I think the first theme I ever used was probably one of the free ones that came like 2011 or 2012 or something like that.
I got a question on staging sites.
Okay, go ahead.
So, so my first entry into using the block editor was last week when I did a staging site for my site, created a new page, played around the block editor, had it exactly what I liked, had it laid out, the images the way I had it, the text wrapping. And then when I went to view it, it would, it would just whack the images. It would, put them in different sizes and different locations. And, I was crammed for time. So I ended up with an acceptable page, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. Is this pretty common when you're working in a staging site on SiteGround to have these types of issues, or is this just an anomaly?
I was going to say, Graham, you probably have better experience than us at staging.
So like typically, I can't say for like SiteGround. I don't think I've used staging SiteGround in SiteGround, but essentially what you're wanting to do is make like a copy of your live site and replicate it as closely as possible before, and then once you've created the staging site initially, you check it all over and see that everything is working, and then that provides you, it gives you the ability to make updates or change things and test things out. So things might not look that great initially, but it allows you to go in there and fix it and see, okay, what's the issue? Is this something I want to spend time investing in making it look right, or switching to a new tool, etc. So if you're switching to the block editor and it's the first time you've used it with that site, it might not look great straight away, but if you kind of look at it and you kind of fix it, maybe see what the issues are, then it might be worth switching over your live site to. It just depends what your goals are and how much time you're willing to invest, but it's kind of the idea behind having a staging site or a development site, so you can do stuff like that.
That's exactly what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to screw up my live site.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'm like, well, I got to put up a new page. I might as well play with this new block editor, and or not so new block editor now. And and it's neat. I liked it, but I just was very disappointed in the results I was getting when I went live.
Yeah. So I mean, like I kind of get that all the time. That's kind of like my job day to day, is things aren't working or not showing correctly, and it's just playing with it and seeing if it works or what the problems are, basically, and just ironing it out. And sometimes it's not going to work necessarily straight away, and that's why you have it in the staging site, because you don't want it coming out in production. But yeah, it depends on your goals, if you how driven you are to use something like the block editor.
But well, yeah, I mean, we ran into the fact, Kathy built the form for my event for me, and yet when we tied it into Stripe, it was, she spent several hours trying to debug it, and turns out if you pushed it live, everything worked. So it was kind of one of those things that was just kind of several hours were wasted, and the end result was not exactly what we wanted, but we got it done, and
Yeah.
everything works. So
Mm-hmm.
A little experience working with staging sites, but I think, yeah, that's the intent of using a staging site and developing one. But at the end of the day, sometimes those are kind of like operating as two separate environments. And I don't know about SiteGround, but I can't speak for their developers. But your intention is to be able to use staging as like your rough draft space. But sometimes those environments are different, and that's why the behavior is different between them.
all right. So I guess my fundamental question is for you developers who do this for a living, when you build a site in a staging environment, do you expect to then when you push it live, do you then expect that you're gonna have to spend X amount of time going in and cleaning it up when it's in the production environment?
No.
No.
My short answer is no, because we try and replicate the staging environment to be as close to the live environment as possible, so that you don't have those issues. And basically, you want to invest your time making sure that they're as close as possible, so that when something does go live, you're not then having to fix issues or figure out why it's different from staging. So in theory, they should be as close as possible. But yeah, that's my answer anyway.
Graham, can you talk just a tiny little bit about the difference between hosting like SiteGround hosting versus managed WordPress hosting, and what it is that you
in
do?
a hot seat now.
Well, I mean, it's your specialty. But with managed WordPress hosting, it's a little easier, right? For the end user, I mean, for the site owner.
Yeah, I mean, partly what we do is, because sometimes with the automated staging environments, there can be issues. So basically what we do at Sentree is make sure that there is that sort of replicated environment that's the same as live. And we do that for you, so you don't have to worry about it, or we do it for our clients. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. I feel as I'm in the hot seat. I don't really know.
Sorry.
I do it all the time, but when somebody asks me to talk about it, like, I just kind of.
One of the things I like, on my sites, I don't have to update plugins, I don't have to update themes, and I don't have to update the WordPress version, because Sentree takes care of that for me, so that I'm not creating some white screen of death and calling them in a panic, because they've already pushed it through for me in a way that once it goes live, I'm not getting those problems, those errors. So for me,
you're far more articulate than I am.
well, correct me if I'm wrong, though, is what I'm saying. But then also, I don't have to worry as much about security, because they're locked down tighter than Fort Knox. Graham, that's where the U.S. repository of money is.
Yeah, it's okay. It's cool. I got the reference.
Okay, good. And so with the security part of it, I'm not as panicked about getting hacked like I have been in the past, because I'm not paying attention. They are. So that's a little bit different. But that's why I've moved away from, from self-hosted like that and into WordPress managed hosting.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose to say a little bit more is, so one of the things that we do is, if basically, when we're creating a staging site, we'll actually go through the site and make sure that everything looks okay. And like, for example, if you've got WordPress 5.4 coming out, we'll do that and update all the plugins, and then we'll actually like go through all the pages, and say you've got the events calendar or something there, we'll actually test the functionality, make sure the search is working, etc. And that's something that you might not necessarily get from somewhere like SiteGround, where you just click a button and you kind of go in and you hope that everything's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, just a little bit about that, since people asked about staging.
Yeah. Sorry.
I didn't intend to turn it into a commercial, but I just wanted to give you
No, it's a good commercial, though. That's a good thing, especially if you're running more than one site, or you have an important site that you're running that's important to your commercial operation or your livelihood, and you want things done correctly, fast, always updated. You don't have to, oh my gosh, I have to go update stuff, right? I mean, every time I go into WordPress, I have, especially Yoast. Yoast is like, you have to update Yoast almost every time, twice a day, something like that.
WooCommerce is the same way, by the way.
Yeah. But Jim, one of the one thing that's different between your staging and your production is the URL, right? The host name. So if you've got something like a credit card plugin that has to come back to a particular site and is trying to validate that, but now you're on the staging server, it has a different host name, that could well be your problem. And that's usually the main difference. And sometimes you will run into these problems, like where you've, in the olden days, where people would put image links in with the full URL instead of a relative URL. Like, oh, it's going to this site, and you do stuff like doing stuff on your desktop and all the images break, right? You don't see that very much anymore. The systems are very smart when you move from one platform to another, but that's the type of thing that would be a different experience between them.
And actually, one of the things that can be an issue as well is sometimes with like premium plugins, they don't allow you to be on more than one site. They say, oh, you're already activated on this domain, so therefore you can't go here. And it's not like if you do an automated like staging environment, it's something you might not necessarily notice, or you might not see that an update is available. So that's where you kind of have to go in a little bit further and actually check it manually.
By the way, working for a plugin company, I will tell you, if you do ever run into that, where you have a staging site and you have, like, especially if you're doing it local development, that kind of thing, and you can't get them to activate the plugin on both your staging and your live site, if you write to the plugin company, they will almost always whitelist your local domain for you. I do that all the time for customers with Give WP. So that's just a little insider trick.
And Jim, where you're using the block editor and you're like, oh, I'm trying it on staging and it doesn't look good, that's just the block editor. I don't think it has anything to do with staging. It's just the block editor is not exactly what you see as what you get, like a Divi site is, closer to that. You're like, oh, okay, this is approximate in these areas. It's not pixel perfect. So when you're working with that type of tool, it takes some time to figure out all the little tweaks that you have to do to make it look perfect, and that's what these guys do. So I don't think it necessarily, except for like that plugin problem you might have had, it's probably not the staging server. It's probably just switching from a different theme editor to the block editor. It never comes out exactly right.
Thanks.
Bye, Marianne. Thanks for being here. Marianne's got to jump out.
Yeah, I got to jump off. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Other questions about anything?
How long is Trevor's beard going to get?
That's a good question. I don't know. Turn the lights up, Trevor. Let's see where you are now.
I
Get
know. There you go.
It's getting there. I've been debating. This morning I almost shaved it off because I was going to fit myself for a mask. And then I decided to not go out.
There you go.
I think you're 1 Z away from being a Southern rock band.
Yep, I'm trying.
1 Z away. I had three chin hairs right here that I was going to let grow during COVID, but I plucked them out this morning, so.
That's more information than we needed to know.
Yeah, my husband for the first time asked to see my roots. He's like, let me see. I want to see what they look like. Because I offered to cut his hair. Yeah, I know.
My fingernails are gone. My beautiful fingernails are gone, and my roots are growing in. And
Night, Trisha.
Bye, Trisha.
My sisters both do nails, and their customers like panicked because they put like it's the powder that it's like that. I forget what is it called again?
Acrylics?
The acrylic nails. Yes, thank you. Yes. So when they start to grow out, that's bad because it's hard to take those things off.
That's what I've been
So
working on.
they had emergency. I think you just need some acetone.
Oh, I've soaked them in acetone. They're not coming off. They just have to grow out. Mine are anyway. Yep.
Okay. I don't do that.
Yep. No.
I don't do nails.
Apparently, I don't anymore either.
I was just happy to get to my barber the day before he closed.
Yep.
I forgot to do that.
I ordered,
Cut it short.
I ordered ponytail holders yesterday.
I have to get some clippers for my dogs pretty soon because they're going to be I don't cut their nails, and that's going to be a problem when we get to that because they don't like it. Well, one doesn't like it.
For sure. That's funny. Oh boy.
So not to be too commercially, but my wife the other day was on a site called Redbubble ordering stickers, and it hit me that I got to get in on this. So I made one that's the marathon sticker, but it says 2020. And so it's for sale now.
If we make it through, huh?
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. Anything else to discuss tonight? WordPress or not? Social media, anything, any questions about your websites? Anything about SEO? I don't think if there's anything I've encountered to share with you.
I'm gonna miss co-working this month and seeing everybody and spending time with everybody.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that to get geared back up again.
Oh yeah, that's because we had to get shut down the day after co-working this in March, right? The day after.
Yes.
I know that's the day I started staying home was the day after co-working.
Yeah, call me Kruskin. I was like, yeah, we're not going to see each other next week. Yeah, I got to start doing my Tai Chi class online too.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting. I've chickened out so far.
Hey, I have a quick question. So I have an old iPad, and we haven't been able to. I talked to my mother on the phone for a minute once a week. She's in a nursing home. So I have an old iPad that I think I'm going to give to the nursing home, not just for my mother, but for like maybe other residents whose parents might want to FaceTime with them. If I wipe clean my iPad, I can just drop it off to them, right? And they can put their own account in there and everything, and then they can FaceTime the residents with their families.
Sure.
Is it okay?
I also just
you might have an issue with that in terms of anyone other than her using it, because the nurses or someone's going to have to clean it off every time.
No, I'll have the nurses use it. I won't. My mother doesn't. My mother, she doesn't even have a phone. She doesn't want a phone because she has trouble dialing. So it's just to see our faces once in a while. We have to call the nurse's desk to talk to her.
Okay.
Yeah, the nurses could walk it in.
Yeah.
Hold it up and have their account so that you call them.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
And they can let other people know that they could do that too.
Yeah.
I also just dropped a link in to the chat. WordPress.org, the marketing team has been working on virtual coffee breaks. So every week, you'll see there for this week, Tuesday, Thursday, they put times in UTC, which is never convenient for me to have to try to figure out. But Thursday at, I think it's Thursday at Thursday at 1 o'clock. That's right. Thursday at 1 o'clock, I do the coffee break for them. So I'll be sharing that link. They'll be sharing that link on their website. So you'll see that on the virtual coffee breaks there. And so if you want to just kind of jump on a meeting like this, it's just to chat and to be connected to other people in the world, in the WordPress space, and just whether it's WordPress related conversation or COVID or general, life, it's just another way to be able to be connected with people. Also, WP and Up If you're not familiar with WP End Up, go to wpendup.org. It is an organization specifically for mental health in the WordPress space. And so WP End Up also does coffee breaks. They have a Slack channel that they do. They post the links for the coffee breaks there too. And they also help with mental health. So if you are struggling in this time right now and you need somebody to talk to, if you go to wpendup.org, there is a chat bubble. You can speak to a mental health professional about any thoughts you're having about depression, anxiety, etc. Especially through this time where feelings like that can be really exacerbated. So it's a free organization. They help for free, but they also do survive on donations. So if you do feel so inclined, they accept donations on a regular basis. I give on a monthly basis to them because I think that they are an organization worth supporting. And I also mention them at the end of every podcast so that other people will think about either using their services or donating to them as well. So that's wpn.org. So always worth a plug with them.
If anybody's interested in doing the virtual like this for the work day, be happy to. I have an account that can do a bunch of that can go over an hour, so be happy to look at that anyhow.
Yep. Oh, thanks, Greg, for sharing that. There's also online events. Thank you.
That's how I found you guys.
What's that?
That's how I found you guys.
Oh, awesome. I wondered if they put it up there or not, so I'm glad it was there. So other events like this one that are happening on a regular basis are being posted there, and you can also, the article that we just did the SEO on will also have links to the Twitter hashtag, etc. So places you can find online events. So Graham, thank you for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Sleep well.
See you later.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
So nice to have him support me and us in this evening, all the way from Scotland. So that was pretty cool. Other questions? Anything else you want to discuss? We can call it a night a few minutes early, or we can discuss anything you'd like.
Anyone got a clue why my video keeps freezing?
Was that Greg that said that?
Yeah, that was me.
I couldn't tell, your mouth wasn't moving.
The one that's don't know with the ventriloquist.
I don't know why your video keeps
Okay.
freezing. It's probably a bandwidth issue right now with just the internet in general, if I had to guess. If I had to guess. So Greg, what do you do with WordPress again? You're
Build client sites, been doing it since 2005.
freelance, or you have a little agency, or?
Just myself.
Awesome. So, and this invitation is not just for Greg, but anybody who's interested. I do have a podcast on WordPress where I interview people in the WordPress space called WP Coffee Talk. And at wpcoffeetalk.com, there is a form you can fill out to be on the show. If you want to be interviewed on WP Coffee Talk, I would love to have you. So it's just a little show that I enjoy. Talking to people literally all over the world. I think I've already interviewed people in about 18 or 19 different countries. It's pretty cool stuff.
Wow. I'm going to head out too. Everybody have a good night.
Bye, Terry. Thanks for being here.
Bye. Thank you, Michelle. It was a good presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very informative. Thanks, Michelle. Nice seeing everybody. Hopefully we can get together for beers soon.
Let's hope.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night, Diana.
Good night, Diana.
Thanks, Michelle. Take care.
It's my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Everyone stay safe.
Yes, you did the same.
Super informative, Michelle. Thanks so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for being here. I hope we see you at some live events someday.
Baby, stay healthy, everybody.
Yes, you too. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. Have a good night.
Bye, Mark. Good to see you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye, Sarah. Thanks for being here.
Take care.
You too.